We are standing in what may be the oldest true city humanity ever built. The year is approximately 7,500 BC, and beneath our feet lies Catalhoyuk, a sprawling settlement in the flat Konya plain of what will one day become central Turkey. Around us, nearly 8,000 people live pressed together in a maze of mud brick homes that stretch across 13 hectares of open grassland. There are no streets here, no gates, no walls separating this place from the world beyond. What we are about to witness is not the beginning of civilization as we imagine it, but something stranger, older, and far more radical than anything that would follow for thousands of years. Catalhoyuk is not just large, it is vast by the standards of its time. Most human communities in this era number in the dozens, perhaps 100 souls scattered across temporary camps or small clusters of huts. Here, thousands live side by side in a density that will not be seen again until the rise of Mesopotamian city-states 4 millennia later. But this is not Uruk. This is not Babylon. The people of Catalhoyuk have not invented writing, metallurgy, or the wheel. They do not worship in temples raised on stone platforms. They do not bow to kings. What they have built is something quieter, more intimate, and in many ways more unsettling. A society where every family lives under the same roof, where the dead sleep beneath the living, and where the boundary between home and tomb, sacred and domestic, has dissolved entirely. To understand this place, we must move through it the way its inhabitants did. We begin on the rooftops. The sun is high and white, casting hard shadows across a landscape of flat rectangular roofs that extend in every direction like a geometric field of stone and earth. There are no doors at ground level, no streets to walk. To enter your home, you must climb a wooden ladder propped against the exterior wall, step onto the roof, and descend through a square opening directly into the main room below. Smoke rises from dozens of these openings across the settlement, thin columns drifting upward from hearths burning inside. The air smells of burning dung and roasting grain. We lower ourselves down one of these ladders into the cool darkness of a single-room house. The walls are smooth, coated in white plaster that has been applied and reapplied dozens of times over the years. The floor is packed earth, hardened by use. In the center of the room, a small fire burns in a clay-lined hearth, and beside it, a woman kneads dough on a flat grinding stone. Two children sit near the western wall, shaping clay into small figurines. Along the northern wall, 3 platforms rise slightly above the floor, covered in woven mats and animal hides. These are the sleeping areas, but they are also more than that. Beneath one of these platforms, barely visible in the dim light, is the outline of a human skull embedded in the earth. The woman does not look at it. The children play near it without fear. This is not a grave in the way we understand graves. This is family. The dead are everywhere in Catalhoyuk, not in cemeteries outside the city, not in distant burial grounds, but here beneath the floors, beneath the sleeping platforms, beneath the hearths where food is cooked and life continues. A typical house contains the remains of 8 to 10 individuals, placed in shallow pits and covered with earth and plaster. Some are whole skeletons, curled on their sides. Others are disarticulated, the bones cleaned and rearranged after the flesh has decayed. In some cases, the skulls have been removed entirely, perhaps to be kept elsewhere, perhaps passed between homes, perhaps curated in ways we can only guess. The living do not fear this. They live on top of their ancestors deliberately, rebuilding the floors year after year, replastering the walls, each layer sealing in the dead and raising the living slightly higher. We move across the rooftops now, stepping carefully from one house to another. There is no central plaza, no marketplace, no communal granary. Each household is functionally identical. Each contains the same basic layout: hearth, platforms, storage bins molded into the southern wall, and narrow side rooms used for food preparation or tool storage. There is no palace rising above the others, no temple dominating the skyline. If there are leaders here, they live in the same mud brick rooms as everyone else. If there are priests, they sleep above the same ancestors. Archaeologists will later search for evidence of hierarchy, of wealth concentration, of political authority, and they will find almost nothing. Catalhoyuk is radically egalitarian, not by ideology, but by design. But beneath this apparent equality, something more complex is happening. We descend into another house, this one different. The walls are not plain, they are covered in paintings. On the eastern wall, a massive aurochs, a wild bull with curved horns, has been rendered in red ochre, its body stretching nearly 2 meters across the plaster. Opposite it, a hunting scene, dozens of small human figures, arms raised, surrounding a much larger animal. The figures are faceless, identical, their bodies reduced to simple lines. The animal dominates. In the corner, embedded in the wall itself, are the horns of a real bull, plastered into the surface so that they jut out into the room. This is not decoration. This is something older than art. We now understand that certain homes in Catalhoyuk function as more than residences. They are what archaeologists will cautiously call history houses, places where the community's memory is concentrated, where the boundaries between human, animal, and spirit are deliberately blurred. These rooms are not public temples. They are private homes, lived in by families who cook, sleep, and raise children in the same space where ancestors are buried and wild animals are invoked in plaster and bone. The distinction between sacred and domestic does not exist here. Every house is a shrine. Every hearth is an altar. To understand what sustains this place, we must leave the rooftops and walk beyond the edge of the settlement. The Konya Plain stretches flat and golden in every direction, a landscape of wild grasses, seasonal marshes, and scattered groves of pistachio and almond trees. The people of Catalhoyuk are farmers, but not in the way later civilizations will farm. They do not plow, they do not irrigate. They plant emmer wheat and barley in small plots near the settlement, scattering seed by hand and waiting for the rains. They herd sheep and goats, but the herds are small, managed communally, slaughtered selectively. They still hunt, a great deal. The bones found in the houses belong to wild animals, aurochs, boar, deer, hare. The wall paintings do not depict crops or domestic animals. They depict the hunt, the kill, the dominance of the wild. And yet, this is not a hunting camp. This is not a seasonal gathering. This is permanence. The houses are rebuilt on the same foundations for over 1,000 years, each generation tearing down the old walls and raising new ones in exactly the same configuration. The rooftops become the floors of the next generation. The dead remain in place, even as the living rise higher. Catalhoyuk does not grow outward. It grows upward, layer by layer, century by century, until the settlement becomes a mound, a tell, a hill of compressed human activity rising slowly above the plain. We return to the rooftops as the sun begins to lower. Smoke thickens in the air. Voices drift up from the rooms below, muffled by plaster and earth. A woman climbs out of her home, carrying a basket of grain. She walks across the roofs, stepping over the openings of neighboring houses, and descends into another home where she is greeted by an older man. There are no doors to knock on, no streets to cross. Privacy, as we understand it, does not exist, but neither does isolation. You cannot enter Catalhoyuk from the outside without crossing the rooftops. You cannot move through your own home without being aware of the homes around you, above you, below you. The architecture enforces intimacy. It makes anonymity impossible. But beneath this closeness, something is always present. A tension, a weight. The archaeologist Ian Hodder, who will excavate this site in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, will note something strange about the human remains. Many of the skulls show evidence of healed fractures, not from warfare, not from accidents, from repeated blunt force trauma, likely inflicted during daily life, possibly within the home. The bones of women and children bear these marks more frequently than men. Violence here is not external, it is internal. It is domestic. It is invisible. And there is something else. The houses are rebuilt constantly, but the rebuilding follows a pattern. When a house is abandoned, it is not left to decay. It is deliberately filled with rubble and sealed. The roof is collapsed inward. The walls are leveled. And then, sometimes, years later, a new house is built directly on top, matching the old layout almost exactly. The dead remain below. The living continue above, but the continuity is not natural. It is enforced, it is ritualized. Families do not move freely. They do not leave. They remain bound to the same square of earth, generation after generation, their identity tied not to a name or a lineage, but to a location, a house, a specific set of ancestors sleeping beneath the floor. We are now in the central area of the settlement, if such a thing can be said to exist. There is no geometric center, no focal point, but here the density is greatest. The houses press together, without space between them. The rooftops form an unbroken surface. Below, in one of the darker rooms, a group of men are preparing a body for burial. The corpse is that of an older woman, her body wrapped tightly in woven fabric. The men do not speak. They work quickly, digging a shallow pit beneath the northern platform, removing bones that were already there, stacking them carefully to one side. The new body is placed in the pit, curled on its left side, facing east. The skull of a previous occupant is placed beside her, as if in conversation. The pit is filled, the floor replastered, the platform rebuilt. By morning, the family will sleep above her, and she will join the others in the layered earth beneath. This is how Catalhoyuk endures, not through expansion, not through conquest, not through trade or innovation, but through repetition, through the endless cycle of birth, death, burial, and reconstruction. The settlement does not change. It replicates itself. Each generation inherits the same architecture, the same spatial relationships, the same obligations to the dead. There is no king to enforce this, no priest to command it. The system is embedded in the structure itself. You cannot live in Catalhoyuk without participating. You cannot leave without abandoning not just your family, but your ancestors, your house, your place in the continuity. But systems like this are fragile. Around 6000 BC something begins to shift. The houses are still rebuilt, but less frequently. Some are abandoned and not replaced. The population begins to decline, slowly at first, then more rapidly. The wall paintings become less elaborate. The history houses are sealed and left empty. By 5950 BC, Catalhoyuk is largely deserted. The reasons are unclear. There is no evidence of invasion, no signs of fire or destruction. The people simply leave. They disperse into smaller settlements across the plain, and the great experiment of living pressed together, above the dead, in perfect egalitarian density, comes to an end. What failed here was not technology. It was not resources. The land remained fertile. The climate did not collapse. What failed was the system itself. The intensity of proximity, the weight of continuity, the inability to move, to change, to become something other than what had been built 100 generations before. Catalhoyuk was not destroyed. It was exhausted. Today, the site is a low mound in the middle of farmland, protected by fences and excavation shelters. Visitors walk along wooden platforms built above the exposed rooms, peering down into the same spaces where families once cooked, slept, and buried their dead. The walls are still white in places. The hearths are still visible. The painted bulls still watch from the plaster. And beneath it all, layer upon layer, are the remains of 8,000 years of human presence, compressed into 12 meters of earth. We are left with a question that is not comfortable. Catalhoyuk was not a utopia. It was not a lost paradise of equality and peace. It was a place where people chose to live in a way that made escape nearly impossible, where the past was not remembered but inhabited, where the architecture itself became a form of control more absolute than any king could impose. It worked for 1,000 years, and then it stopped. We do not live in cities like this anymore. We do not bury our families beneath our floors. We do not rebuild our homes on the bones of our ancestors. But we still live pressed together. We still inherit systems we did not design. We still ask whether closeness makes us stronger, or whether it simply makes leaving harder. Let us know which ancient city or forgotten culture you'd like us to reconstruct next.